People have created businesses and careers in a completely new way now.
Yeah.
Like, it's switched the whole platform.
What's going on, everyone? You're watching Emeroy TV, or you're watching Vision Paradox TV, or you're listening to this on the podcast. Today, I got a super special guest, old friend of mine from the old country, from YouTube, pre-America's Best Dance Crew, pre-social media, and I was actually talking to him last week, talking about another project, but then we got into like another hour conversation talking about how the dance scene's changed, and I figured it'd be a great opportunity just to, kind of talk about the history, reminisce, be like old dudes, but also document the history of, like, from our perspective of how it's changed. So this is Anthony Shaboobs.
Yep.
So everyone used to know him as Shaboobs. I don't know if he told me that he just goes by Anthony now. So,
actually, no, I don't. So what's weird is that if I meet somebody who's not a dancer, I'm usually introduced as Anthony, but everybody feels, I even feel a weird way about it, because since I became a part of the dance community, I've been known as Shaboobs to everybody.
Forever.
And at this point, people think it's my real name. People think it's my only name. And it's become a kind of a branding and an identity for me. So I feel like Shaboobs is me, and it's kind of a performance aspect of it.
Give the people a little bit of your origin story of how you got into the dance, and then we'll expand from there.
So I got into dance in a very kind of weird roundabout way. I didn't grow up actually dancing. I'm a very late starter, late bloomer. I used to tell people all the time, I joked, I would dance like Chandler from Friends.
Oh, God.
Like, I had no rhythm. I never cared for it. I was very much a TV kid. And then I think when I was around 13, I had friends who were into pop music. And for whatever reason, I got into Backstreet and NSYNC. And then I started learning the choreography from there. But what was funny is that I was so nervous about it, because being a boy dancer wasn't really the thing.
Yeah, back then, no.
Especially not then, because it was always associated with pop. So pop music and all this, so it wasn't the cool thing. So I would only practice at home, and I would never really get into studios. I think I won a free dance class from the radio from a company called Fierce Dance Company. I went, it was the first time I ever got to learn from an instructor, but I was so new and not used to having someone to learn from that I was there for like a year without doing anything. I don't know if I ever actually performed. I think I remember going to rehearsals and being a part of it, but never really engaging in it because I was so slow to it. And then I remember the instructor, Raleigh, he brought in one of his old friends that he used to teach, or that he taught back in the day. His name is Jesse Lee Santos. Jesse came up to Northern California, taught a dance class, and was kind enough to not shoot down any hopes and dreams. And it was an interesting time, because I've never been told that I'm necessarily bad, but everyone's always been like, there's potential. And so I moved to Southern California to go to Cal State Long Beach for school. And I remember calling Jesse up one day, and I was like, I want to go take a dance class, but North Hollywood is too far from Long Beach. Like, when you live in Southern California, these distances are fake because you add traffic time in there. Like, so you think it's going to be a 30-40 minute drive, which it should, turns into an hour and a half. So going from Long Beach to North Hollywood to try to go to Millennium was always a hassle. And I remember calling him one time, and he would be like, have you heard of Boogiezone? They're over there in Irvine, and that's like a 30-minute drive. I think in that same week he told me about it, I was on YouTube. Had just started. YouTube came out, I think, around 2006. Yeah, like 2006 is when it became known to everybody. Yeah. So I remember watching a clip after a Boogiezone class on YouTube of Ivan Komayev from, at the time he was on So You Think You Can Dance. And I remember I'm like, dude, I just saw this guy on the show. He's over here in Irvine. And then from there, I was just like, I have to go. And I remember, I think January 2007, I took my first Boogiezone class with Steve Bolton from Canada. I was absolutely terrified. I was horrible, but I loved it so much that I just kept coming back every week. And the cool thing about it was that because Boogiezone was geared towards professional training, it never had the same instructor. You had a new instructor every week. and you got to learn a different style. So you're always learning and always being pushed. And I think it was for me, the biggest growth, because being consistent there, I got to have something new all the time. And then Boogiezone expanded from the Irvine location to Irvine, Alhambra, and Torrance.
Yep.
So for 3 days a week, I was in Irvine, Alhambra, and Torrance taking Boogiezone class, which eventually led to me getting into some of the dance teams around the community. My first team was Culture Shock LA.
Oh, hell yeah.
Way back. This is like 2007. Culture Shock LA. They actually...
I joined the year after you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I joined in 2008.
You know, what's funny is that they didn't take me back for 2008 season. And it's no love lost or anything. I love them all. They've all been very supportive. But I remember at the time, I was in school and I was a drama major for like one semester. This is actually why I stopped doing the drama major, is that it interfered so much with dance, because it was the first time I was on a dance team, and Culture Shock was a huge learning opportunity, but I wasn't there. I missed like half the season because I had to be production for plays. Yeah. Like I'm at school doing nothing in the hallway besides freestyling, waiting to the end of the play so I can lower some rocks from the above, and that was it. So 2008, when I re-auditioned, they didn't take me back, and they're like, it's not that you're not talented, it's matters just of commitment. Yeah. Which I totally understood.
There's a Culture Shock, if those of you who are unfamiliar with how Culture Shock LA works, it's not just the rehearsals, but they also do a lot of community outreach. Yep. And which is very...
it's a big staple of it. Like that's kind of the bigger portion of Culture Shock is yes, it's a professional training ground for dancers, but it's the big push has always been community. They go to schools, they teach at elementary schools, high schools, middle schools. They put on shows. Like they do a lot to try to bridge the arts for a lot of kids. So it is a big time commitment, and it's a huge, wonderful thing. But being a college student, I couldn't do it. And I think it was about another year and a half of training. I went audition for Breed, didn't make it. I think then after that, I got onto a team with CJ Edwards. He was one of the few people who saw potential and I guess kind of groomed me, because I got most of my training from CJ and Expressive Doubts. And then from there, I got to go into GRV. A year after GRV, I got to finally get onto Breed. Took me 4 years, 3 auditions, which is funny because since I was always at Boogiezone, everyone thought I was already a part of Breed.
I thought you were part of Breed just by association.
Everyone.
I didn't know it took that long.
Oh my God. It was forever. Took forever. I think I was upset the first or second time I didn't make it, because I was like, come on, man. Like, I'm part of the family and I'm here all the time, but it took that much more training in me to gain experience before getting to Breed.
Dang, they're trying to like make you hungry for it. Or like,
oh yeah. But I mean, I think that was a good thing, because it was one of those that, you know, like how they say Michael Jordan was cut from his first basketball team and that was his driving force. It was kind of that for me, but I think what really kept it was that whether I made the team or not, the community was always so supportive, and you always felt like you had a friend at Boogiezone. Like, Boogiezone became my home, and I think that's the only reason I'm known in the dance community, is because I was always there. Whatever event that Boogiezone or Breed would be a part of, I went. If it was 6 hours away in Northern California at Chapkis's old studio, Dance Unlimited, I showed up. Damn. If it was in San Diego, whatever I can go to, I was a part of.
Shouts out to Elm and Boogiezone and Culture Shock Arnell and all those. One thing I think that's funny, well, not funny, but it fascinates me is like we see all these dancers that are doing a big, quote unquote, in the dance industry, but seeing where their roots come from, coming back from these certain communities.
Right. Because it really does stem from Angie with Culture Shock, Arnell with Cop and Modern, and then Elm with Boogiezone. I think those were the 3 big pivotal moments for our dance community to really reach next level, because it was Boogiezone being consistent on YouTube that led to the growth of what it is now. Yeah. And like, it really was. Like, from what you guys see nowadays with dance class videos, it used to be as simple as a flip camera in the corner of the room, and you would filming the mirror, and you would trade off the camera and be like, oh, here, you go, because I want to go dance in the group. Yeah. That's how it was.
There's no stabilizer back then.
Not at all. And
none of this fancy lighting.
And here's the little trick that I always tell people. I got most of my training because I was always willing to help. Because my thing is that I became part of Boogiezone because I didn't have the money. I'm a college kid, came out here. My family was supportive supportive, but they're not paying for it. They're paying for the college, and that's what they wanted. So the dance was all on my own.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a few times that I'm sure I snuck into Boogiezone, and don't worry, I've made up for it since then. But it got to the point where I was like, no, I want to be here, and I have to do something to give something back. So I tell a lot of people, most of my training really comes from the fact that I was willing to be the guy with the camera to film for everybody. I would stand there and I would show up to an Essence workshop with Gigi over in West Covina. I'm like, hey, do you need someone to film? I can film. And the trade-off is always be, come take class and just film groups. For me, I think I dove headfirst into helping, and that really led to me getting the training and being around. Which was truly amazing. I think it's really opened the door more for me than me just being a student.
Wait, what I love about that, because what just came up for me was the whole like working for free, and I know that turns off a lot of people,
right?
But the way you did it really benefited you in the way that you wanted it,
right? Exactly. And it was I never thought of it at the time as working for free because it was giving something to get something.
Exactly.
And so like I'm still getting something. It's a trade-off. I'm bartering my services at the time when no one was really thinking about it. So it worked out for me because I'll even tell another story. I don't recommend doing this, but I remember Monsters of Hip Hop. I think I learned about it super late, probably 2007, 2008. And it was in Santa Clara up north in the Bay. I drove all the way up there. It was like a 3-day, I think? I think it's a 3-day event. I think it's a 3-day event. If anything, it's at least for sure a 2-day event. And what they do is on the last day, on Sunday, they usually have auditions to get into the Monsters cast. And I just really wanted to be there. Didn't have any money to actually pay for it because it's quite expensive. It's over $100 or something like that. And when you're a broke college student, just getting there is enough. So I drove all the way up to the Bay, no money, no place to stay. I go into the event.
No initial contact?
Not at first, no. I went there and I think I found some of the people, and in the morning, probably the first day, I was there for a few hours, and I found the guy named Gene, who was one of the main people working, and I just simply asked, hey, I came all the way up here from LA. I don't necessarily have any money, but I would love to help with anything you need for the convention. And Gene was so great that he was like, okay, I'll do this. You can come back and help us clean up, put everything away, and we'll let you take the convention. So I got at least one full free day of convention plus the audition. He let me audition.
You got to audition?
I got to audition. Never made it, but
that's a great offer.
Right, just the opportunity and the offer was. I was like, dude, that's more than gracious. Yeah. So I did that at least. For sure twice, maybe 3 times. But I went and did the same thing. And it always goes to show people, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be barter service for your service particularly. But if you're willing to help, there's somebody's always willing to give for somebody who's willing to give back. Yeah. Like a lot of times I think a lot of people get into this, what can it do for me and what can I get? It's like, okay, I know what I'm getting. What can I give? Like at the time, they didn't need video, and I didn't have a camera. I wasn't a video guy. I showed up and just simply asked, "What can I do?" And he's like, "You can help clean up." So for 3 years, when they went out to Santa Clara and wanted to drive up there, I would do the same thing. I don't even know if he remembered me, but I don't know if he's like, "There's this kid who comes here every year," but he would let me do it, and it was just an amazing time. And I would just be there, and at the end, and the cool thing is that when you're helping somebody at the end, you really get the one-on-one getting to know somebody. Like it was a great conversations. It was great kind of seeing how the thing works. Because I think also for a lot of people, when you jump in, you're so excited about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish that you're not aware of the process. And a lot of these things, like I tell people, you can get into dance or whatever field you want in so many different ways. You don't have to be, like I know everybody wants to be Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, but you don't have to be Kobe or LeBron to be a part of the organization. Yeah. Like you can, there's the managers, the coaches, there's your trainers, equipment manager. Like there's so many different avenues to get in. And whether you own your own studio, open a convention, or try to create something else that's new, it's like you have to learn the process of what all these things are. Yeah. And it's a great eye-opener when you're willing to help, because you're then willing to look at everything and be like, oh, this
you
is...
see things outside, like a 10,000-foot view of...
Right. And the beauty is that it's broken down. The smoke and mirrors is gone. The big stage is like, wow, it took 4 people to put this thing together. You take it apart, you add the tape, you do this, and it's like, when you really get to see that, you really get to be like, I can do this. I can do whatever it is that you're doing. I can do whatever it is you're doing. I can do that too. Like, it also got me into the production side of things, where I looked at cameramen. I'm like, these guys are walking around holding the camera. I could do that. Oh, I could do that. I can go edit this. Like, when you get to see the process and you're aware of the process, it makes it that much easier and demystifies it so that you can kind of find your way in. But I mean, that's dance world. I got heavy into it in 2007 when I moved to Southern California. That's really when the training started. I was in high school learning things from, Usher music videos, Chris Brown's music videos. You Got Served was huge. I remember making my friends learn the entire You Got Served opener. I would have them practice in my backyard.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, yes. But the first part with the big jackets, remember when they switched, they took it off the jacket?
Yeah.
I had my friends doing that in the middle of July in my backyard. I was like, guys, school comes back in September. We have to be ready. we got to be ready for the back to school assembly. So I would make
3 months left.
Oh yeah, we were in it, bro. We were studying that thing. We were learning the sea walk, all of it.
Oh God, sea walking.
So it was a lot of self-taught first, and then YouTube became a big influence, and then Boogiezone was really the big thing, and from there it took me everywhere. Like, I got to Boogiezone and YouTube really were the lifting of the veil. Like, it just showed me the whole world, and all of my influences came from there. Like Shauna Baristo, actually everybody that we've watched, from like Kinja's, Most Wanted Crew, Movement Lifestyle, like all of that was hugely influential to me. And that's what I think kept me going, because, all those times that I didn't make a team, I auditioned for GRV twice, made it the second time. Breed was 3 times, made it the third time. Like, those can get discouraging.
Yeah.
And especially when you're unsure of where you're trying to go, when you, in your mind, you're like, this is what I want to do, but you're not hitting the accomplishments of it. It can be very discouraging and very easy for a lot of people to want to stop.
Yep.
But the community being so supportive, everyone being such a friend, everyone like, oh my God, it was so much camaraderie. I think that's what fueled the love even more. Like, I loved dance and I loved how it made me feel, but being around there and be like, yo, people love this. People do this. Like, the first time at Body Rock, 2006, I remember I walked into the San Diego Convention Center and I looked around, not Convention Center, it was in downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
Was it convention?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was later. I feel like the first year was a different one.
Oh, I don't know.
By the way, it was downtown San Diego. I remember I walked into the thing and I was like, holy crap. This is a huge theater. This is a huge stage, a huge theater. This is a real production. Before that, I hadn't done anything outside of a gym or a multi-use room or like those little squares that you got outside for like public gatherings.
Yep.
Like, none of that. I go in there, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, when you get into those types of venues, you feel like it just elevates the whole...
It adds a level of prestige to it.
Yeah.
And it, actually, I think what it did is it helped take it into the higher arts. Because a lot of people will consider certain things a high art form and then the low art form. The street culture is usually the low art form. But seeing Body Rock and these crews and this all done to hip hop music in such a way, it was mind blowing. And I was like, I have to be here. This is a whole new thing. And in my mind, I remember thinking, like, man, if the world could see this, which is actually what's funny, because that is what got me so into the community, is that I wanted to share what I saw. So I would take a camera, I would sneak the camera into the event. Mind you, the cameras were a little smaller than nowadays. Yeah. I had I think it was a Canon HD camcorder. It's one of those little handheld ones. Yeah. I think I remember at Body Rock 07, I didn't want the screen to be seen, so I would take my hat and hide it on the screen. No, at this time, because they were still selling DVDs.
Oh, shit.
I definitely, me and one of the dude from PAC, we definitely helped put somebody out of business. Whoever was doing the DVDs, whoever was selling the DVDs. And mind you, it's not that we put him out of business. YouTube did. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to...
Adapt?
Not necessarily adapt. He wasn't able to produce properly. Because the big reason that it fell is that people didn't get their DVDs. I got 2 in the mail for me, but a lot of other people didn't get DVDs. And I remember one guy ripped the whole thing and posted it on YouTube. And I think that was my push for the next year, that when I went to Body Rock, I would just film it. And I just wanted to share what I would see. You know, at the time you had Lando and Ben Chung and Kevin Brewer all on Super Galactic. You had Ivan and Twitch and Candace on Breed. You had all these Nonstop, Pac Modern, Kava Modern. You had all these amazing groups. And I'm like, yo, people have to see this. This is amazing. So I would film it, and then I would try to go upload it. And at the time, oh my God, it would take forever to upload anything. And I would be at a Starbucks down the street from my apartment and my school, sitting there for like hours trying to upload this footage. I think by 2008, Anna had let me come in to help film it. And I remember it was me. She invited me, but I was so nervous about my camera quality that I hit a Sean Heiss from Envision. And I had him come do it. I was like, we'll both film this. You hit the lower angle, I'll hit the upper angle. His is definitely the better camera. And that's what got posted. But I remember I would be there, record the whole thing, and then try to go. It would take me like 2 weeks to upload just 3 or 4 performances.
Jeez.
Like I literally, choreo cookies, 127 minutes, and the clicker kept going up in time. I was like, oh my God, this is outrageous. Like I couldn't keep up for what like they do now. Between Vibrancy, and shout out to all of them.
Yeah, they upload so quick.
Oh man, it's almost like a live show now. Yeah, it's like, it goes up right as soon as you're done.
Like the next.
That's the next level. Already? I think they've done a live stream, but they still record the show themselves so that they can upload their graphics and you know do whatever it is that they need to do, whether sound, color grading, logo.
Yeah.
It's definitely gonna get to that point though. Yeah. My mind, from 2006, the first time I saw it, is like, Body Rock needs to be on a national platform similar to what cheer competitions were.
I'm thinking like they're already doing like Red Bull BC1. They're already broadcasting at that level. It's like it should be like, I don't know if it's probably not going to be affordable, but to get a crew to set up live videos for them.
I think it can be.
And even like, to add it to a touch of like sports on it, there would be like commentators. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. It will get to that point, and especially for a lot of these larger events that have choreography, like there's World of Dance, Hip Hop Internationals. Yeah. I think those competitions can get into the kind of the sports arena where you can have live broadcasting. You'll have those infographics right away. I do think that's the next level, and it should be, because I mean, and there's no disrespect to cheer or anything, but if we've got those platforms for the cheer world, I do think it's amazing. What I feel I've seen in this dance world is mind-blowing. Yeah. And the artistry in itself deserves that platform. Yeah. So I hope that it gets to that way. I mean, whether it be ESPN or whoever, but I do hope that it moves into that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so far removed from the competition scene. I don't even know how things are anymore. Last competition event I got to go do was arena dance competition.
Right. Yeah.
That was the first time I saw a competition have a shit ton of sponsors. Like Red Bull sponsored it, so like that is true. Sponsored. Imagine like now broadcasting it, wider audience. Yes. Fucking crazy.
Because what people keep aren't aware of, and they keep kind of trying to take down dance, is that, and I say this is in the non-dancers in the business world of it, that the numbers aren't big enough yet. Yes. We're in a global world now. The reach is everywhere. Influence is everywhere. The more that this picks up, the more that it will be seen. Because dance is it's an art form that everyone can do. Everyone participates in. Whether you can dance or like dance or not, I don't think I've met a single person in the world that does not like music. You might not like a genre or a style or the sound, but everyone loves music, and music creates the movement. And the more that we get into a very interconnected world, the more that dance is going to come up. We've already seen just in the last decade of what has happened. Yeah. I mean, movement lifestyle is a thing now. Debbie Reynolds is not. Yeah. Debbie Reynolds is a flat piece of ground right now, and it's heartbreaking, but it's gone. And that was an establishment, at least since what, 70s? Yeah. Like Debbie Reynolds is huge. Yeah. The studio was the place that Michael Jackson rehearsed Thriller at. Like that studio was there until like 2 years ago. Yeah. And so that's now gone, and we've seen now with moving lifestyle, Creative Minds Dance Academy, Farside with Studio V.
Oh, yeah,
like
Studio V.
all of these things have kind of come up through the YouTube generation because now people have been able to have a stronger reach and influence and be able to bring that crowd and bring the crowd enough to make a business. And that's the big thing that for a lot of people I don't think they're aware of. Like, oh, it's a fad, it's a trend, it's only going to last so long. I'm like, people have created businesses and careers in a completely new way now.
Yeah.
Like, it's switched the whole platform. You used to have to be a person that went into the industry. You had to follow this very narrow path of what you could do, and then you can become a studio owner, do a convention, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. Now, like, people like develop their own brands, and then they become something else. Like,
people have full-on careers without ever having to do the dance jobs.
Yeah, or
without ever going to these auditions.
Backup dancing. Oh yeah, audition after audition after
like
audition.
some of these are just getting hired to do choreography for their work and their art, and that's the new wave now. Is that people are being respected for their art and choreography, not necessarily having to follow the same narrow path. I remember when I started watching this with Gigi and June and Puspos and Sean, I was like, these guys are always out traveling. They're always teaching. And it's become, because of what we have now with YouTube and the social media reach, it's really allowed for people to see that there's enough here that we can build something and it can grow.
Yeah.
And I think the more that this continues, the more that we'll see it. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't come with its cons. There's definitely pros and cons to every situation. Like, it's an oversaturated market now.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little bit more difficult to break in because a lot of people, and I think this is many people in their career paths or creative paths, they have to figure out who they are first. Because when you're learning, you're kind of learning and taking things from everybody else, and you don't necessarily have your own style yet. It takes at least a good couple of years and you putting in the time before you get to break into who you are, and then that's what takes off.
Yeah.
Like, everyone that stands out now, they've remained who they are. Paris Global has a career without ever having to be in LA. That was never the case. You could never, prior to 2006, it was never the case.
I remember seeing them at HHI.
Absolutely.
Like,
and then from there, HHI, she went back to New Zealand and just created, put everything on YouTube, and then grew.
Dude, yeah, and they're doing freaking music videos with Ciara, with that
J-Lo,
Fenty,
Missy
show,
yeah, everybody, like, and that just goes to show is like, you find who you are, you're consistent in that, and then you just go and do the work.
And I think that's because you're talking about the whole social media, and social media has given everyone such an opportunity to showcase their work and not have to follow the path that was set before them. The thing is, they just gotta put in the work. They gotta
And I mean, here's the thing:
and just put it out there.
And don't get it wrong, like it does. Like, once these things have been established, like they are now, there is a quote unquote standard or a process that kind of everyone does, and you kind of just have to understand it. It's the same as trying to get into the NBA, the NFL. There's a set of rules that help propel. I think a lot of us now as creatives get very weighed down at what we feel we have to do to be relevant. And don't get me wrong, it can be taxing and time consuming, but we didn't have this opportunity 10 years ago. Yeah. Like, I remember telling a friend of mine, like, you have a career based off of your Instagram.
Yeah.
That was not the case. That was not the case. You couldn't do that 10 years ago. Like, you really couldn't.
I remember if I wanted to make a career,
you know what was before?
I would just go to auditions, and I'm like, fuck, man.
And here's to show how it's changed for us. Before YouTube, if dancers wanted to do their own video, they'd have to go pay for a service, and it was a lot of money. And mind you, it's not like how it is now where you can kind of freelance the different positions and have different people do things and then upload them for free. That site that you used to do it, you had to pay for the site. It was expensive. It was like one package.
Oh, actually building the site from scratch?
No, it was, I forget what it was. It's one of like those like LA casting sites. I totally forgot. I remember Gigi was on it. I remember I looked at it and may have thought about it, but they filmed your choreography in this nice big white room. I didn't really like any of the angles or cuts, but they filmed your choreography for you. They hosted the video for you, and you can only use that website and link to share it.
Wow.
And it didn't pan out as well for them as what YouTube did when they came out, because it was more accessible for YouTube. Before YouTube, they would ask, and you can upload your reel or it would cost you $40 to do it. And if you wanted to change it, you got to pay the same $40 to do it again. So now, like, as much as it feels like, oh, it's such a hassle, it's such an opportunity.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is about it is that you can follow in the footsteps and know that is a blueprint, or you can look at the blueprint and be like, okay, how can I do it different? Because that's usually what's going to be the thing that kicks people off and start their career, is that you could either do something that has been proven and then do it better. Yeah. Or you could look at how it's done and say, how can I do it different? And then that's what's going to be the staple for you. And I think that's for a lot of people, is like, if you look at the social media and how it goes, it's like, okay, I have to post to be relevant, but how can I be different about this? Yeah. What can I post? How can I do something that's more for me, where it doesn't feel so businessy? Because a lot of creative people get so weighed down at trying to feel like they're a marketer or an advertiser, and like, you have to do that. And I think artists, for sure, we have to get past this fear of money and business and and talking about it, so that we can finally grow to be successful. Yeah. Because you're never going to get away from business. Point blank.
Yeah, as an artist, you are the product already.
You are the product. You are the product and the service. Yeah. And once you understand that and value your time and the efforts that you do, then you really start to be like, okay, I have to learn to pay for this. You start learning the cost of things. Yeah. You start learning to add the cost. Okay, it's going to cost me to rent the studio space. Okay, well, that's going to come out of whoever's paying for this plus this. Yeah. Because as a business, you can't lose money.
There's things that you got to take into consideration. It's like not just the dance, but there's like the space, the gas money. There's a lot of, like, I call them phantom charges. A lot of people don't often think about when they get the money. A lot of what they earn ends up being to cover costs.
Exactly. And then you feel like, man, I did all this work and I didn't get any money. You have to learn to factor in the costs. Yeah. Like when you pay for anything or go buy something, they extra. You want the insurance, it's an extra cost. You want someone to come out and do that, there's an extra. Like you learn to cover those things and be more business. I'm learning to be more creative about the business, because that's the only way that's going to make it fun. Yeah. A lot of us get so weighed down. If you're a business person, you don't like to mix it with the art, and I totally get it. But if you learn to take the business and think of it as art, it's gonna turn around better for you. I think Andy Warhol had a quote saying, "Good business is art." And if you really think about the art of the deal, the art of communication, and understanding that, and human communication, you can really go a long way and really enjoy it more than feeling like you're charging too much for this thing or this and that. It's like, hey, this is what I provide. This is what I do. This is the cost of it.
Yeah. So that's the fun part too.
Absolutely.
Well, it took a while for me to get over that fear of the money conversation, because it's like, I almost feel like it's a worthiness issue. Like,
it is for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people will worry about their worthiness because of who they're doing business with or who they're talking to, because somebody doesn't want to do or pay for it. And that's fine, but it's a big world. Yeah. There's somebody else who's going to like it and is going to do it. It's like, if it's okay, it doesn't work for that, go somewhere else. Yeah. Like, there's so many avenues now. You can offer free work to another individual if you need it just to get in. Like, there's definitely ways to improve and empower yourself in this, because it is a lot. And when you're by yourself, it can feel very overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially if there's no one to help guide you or give you any feedback, and you're trying to figure out your costs. One of the things that I just loved doing when I was first starting my business, this is outside of dance, I would just price high to see if they would say yes.
Right. Like, and the moment that they did, you're like,
and I'd be like, sure.
What, really?
Whoa. Because, the people that are like, I don't do work for free. And I'm like, how much are you worth? I don't fucking know. Then you're not worth shit then.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so funny, because I do remember it was just earlier this year when I was getting back into teaching. Somebody asked me to choreograph something as a personal piece. They're like, I'll pay you for the choreography. Just let me know what your rate is. And I felt some kind of way about charging this price. I'm like, this feels kind of high just to teach somebody a dance routine for an hour and a half. And then you really break down, I have to spend the time and energy to create the piece.
Time is important.
Time is the biggest asset. If you have to pay for studio space, that has to be then covered back by what you're doing. And then you have to think about it as you're providing a service and a product. I am teaching you, not only am I creating something personal for you, that is the product, is the choreography itself, and then the service of teaching. Because nowadays you can film something and then just give that to somebody, them, and they can go learn it themselves.
And you're also creating the choreography, the art itself.
Yeah. So the choreography is, you have your product, and then you have the service, and it's like, okay, how much do I want to be paid for this? How much time did I spend doing this? How much time do I think is worth me doing this? Okay, boom. And then when I gave her the price, she said, okay. I was like, what? I was like, whoa, really? And mind you, it felt like it was a huge boost, and I was scared because not only did I never charge that much before or ever do something like that, it was a completely different genre of dance. Like this girl took 2 of my hip hop classes, and she asked me to do something that was more of a contemporary.
Teach me jazz.
It was definitely, bro. When you listen to the song, you're like, how did you see me to this? Like it's like a slow guitar ballad, and it picks up, but you took my class to MC Hammer, Can't Touch This, and to French Montana Slide. Those are 2 very upbeat, hype songs, and then you gave me the slowest and asked if I could do Contempt.
She is a person of vision.
Absolutely. I had to ask her, and I'm like, I just felt that you would be willing and open to do it. And I was like, yeah. And honestly, I think that whole experience was an eye-opener and something that made me very proud. It's like, you are worth your time. You are worth your value. Mm-hmm. You assign the value. Mm-hmm. And if somebody wants it, they're willing to pay for it. Now, as long as you're not trying to screw anybody over and be over the top, it's good all around. And it was huge confidence boost for me because I had just gotten back into teaching. I took like 4 years off of creating art. So the fact that somebody wanted to, not only had a vision, but wanted to pay me for that and go do it, I was like, oh, by all means, yes.
Like that's one thing too. Yeah. Yes, assign your worth to whatever service you're providing, but the next most important thing is you've got to deliver. Because if you don't deliver, you scam them.
Yeah.
And then either you have integrity and you refund it, or at least half, or you just
here's another thing too.
Reviews.
If you can, try to over deliver.
Yeah.
Like that's really the biggest thing for me right now is like, okay, this takes up a lot of time. Is there any way I can give a slight, small, extra something? Like whether it's like, hey, I've made 2 versions of this, or hey, I'm willing to do an extra hour for free or something. Just if you don't feel confident about your product per se, about the initial thing, try to see what you can. Don't rely on it. Don't be like, oh, this was crap, so I'm going to offer all these things so that she likes that. Be genuine. It's like, look, I did my best on this. If you like it, cool. If not, here's some other things that I'd like to offer in the way.
Yeah.
In any way you can. I mean, if you start to over deliver for clients, they're going to turn around and be grateful for it.
Yeah, I think because then I still believe in, even with all the whole social media marketing, I think word of mouth, still wins.
Oh yeah.
And if you over deliver and they feel great with your service, man, they'll do the marketing for you without having to spend time on a post or spend any ad dollars on anything.
I think 90% of my business as Unleashed Entertainment is mainly word of mouth.
Yeah, me too.
Like I do have Instagram and the YouTube. I just realized there's nothing on my YouTube channel for Unleashed Entertainment, and the Instagram there is stuff on there, but I definitely don't post a lot of my clients' work. That's their work. If anything, the clients refer me or they'll see the work on their page, and that's what gets it. And again, the only way that's going to work is if either you do good work or you're willing to help in some way. Like I've definitely gotten some work over someone else because somebody liked my energy more than the other person. Too.
It's not just, doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're a dick, no one's going to want to work with you, and people are going to say that.
Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people who make their money and they're extremely good at what they do, and to the point that somebody may ignore that. But it's not going to pan out long term for that, because people want to be around. Like if you're spending your time with someone, you want to enjoy your time with someone. Nobody wants to be stressed out over this or to feel like their idea wasn't heard or
heads the whole time.
Right. It's not fun. And so I've definitely made it my point, and especially because when I do videography, to me it's service first before a product. I'm here to get your idea out. Whatever you see, I'm your guy. That's it. I don't technically call myself a director for any of my clients, because me being a choreographer, I know that when I think of something, I see the whole thing. Most choreographers kind of also do. I just try to get that vision out of their head. I'm like, what do you see? do you see a low angle here? Do you see this? Because I know for myself, that's how I view things. I think as a dancer, everything in my head kind of looks like a music video. So I'm always kind of thinking of that in my music in that way.
Yeah.
And so when I go to these jobs for other people, I try to like tune into them. Like, what is it? How did you see this? And if you absolutely didn't have any vision, or it's like, it's just, I saw you doing this. Okay, by all means. But it's really a matter of being good energy and trying to be helpful. Like at the end of the day, as much as I want to get paid and make money off of this, I do want to be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing.
Absolutely.
It's super. A lot of people want to get theirs first instead of giving the value.
And it is a balance. Don't get me wrong. There will be clients who test you. There will be people who try to get every little thing that they can, or just like, or ask what all the details are so they can push you to the max of timing and this and that. It happens.
Squeeze every ounce.
You have the right as the business owner to refuse work. It's like, hey, if that client was difficult to be with, maybe you're busy the next time they hit you up. Like, you don't have to do that. You can learn to be like, okay, I remember that experience, whether I need the money enough to go deal with it again or not. Go do something else and you can find another way. But I mean, it's always a balancing act. At the end of the day, you're really trying to help people create their vision in the best possible environment that you can.
Nightmare clients. You just reminded me of a story. One of my friends who freelances, and she was doing a videography job, and she was doing the work, and the client kept asking for revisions on revisions on revisions on revisions. And when you do go into work with people, make sure you have a clearly defined scope of work. Not just like, oh, here's
and what the
1 minute
goal
dance.
is. Yeah.
2 or 3 rehearsal dates for 3 hours. Delivery is a 2-minute piece, whatever it is. Like
References, be sure to ask for references. A lot of people will have an idea in their head, but not be able to communicate it. And they don't know. And it's like, show me something that you've seen that can model this, be similar to this, whether it's, I like the intro of this to this. Yeah, because it's hard dealing with a lot, especially revisions. That's one thing I was thinking about. That's a pain.
Yeah, especially if once you deliver something, it's like, no, that's not what I envisioned. And then I remember one of the clients I worked with was like, make something cool. I'm like, what the fuck? Cool to me is different to compared to you.
It's subjective. It's art. Like it's the gift and the curse of this is that it's subjective. Like what you might find cool and good and dope, somebody else might think it's whack.
Yeah.
And it's so hard, especially when somebody says that. Like, hey, I just be cool with this. Do something cool.
Yeah, be creative with it. Like,
right. Like there's so many different avenues. Do you want motion graphics? Do you want text? Do you want a title? Do you want
there's one of the other projects I was working on. We were debating for the longest time on how we were going to message it. Is it going to be a poppy feel? Is it going to be an edgy feel?
Right.
So that's like, how do you want it? How do you want the message delivered? And if you're not sure, like I still kept asking, and I would send them samples. How about this? What about this? What about this? Because it's important to be able to deliver the vision that the client wants. Because especially if you're the service, so unless you're the director and you're the one leading the vision, that's another thing.
That's what makes it hard. I think that's been the hard struggle for me, is this part of being having your vision and then being in service to somebody else's vision, because it's a hard balance, because they'll want you to add something to it, and they're like, I don't really know what to add to this. Especially for me, it got hard a couple times when people would ask me to come on set. And then my first time getting there, seeing it, hearing the music, all right, you direct this. Go ahead.
You didn't even get a chance to study the track.
I'm like, and it's hard because here's my thing about it. I think people need to stop asking for people to direct. First of all, you're not paying a director's fee. That is its own job, and they get paid a lot of money for that job because they have to worry about all of it. They have to worry about the camera, the lighting, the composition, the lens, the outfits, all of it. If you want that director, you need to learn to pay the director's fee, because it comes with a lot more responsibilities. And I couldn't stand it when someone would be like, oh, go ahead and direct this. I'm like, this isn't my vision. Like, I just heard this for the first time. Directors have months. Any movie director, they've read the script,
pre-production.
They agreed to do it. They're like, oh yeah, I like this. And then they'll spend that time to
kind
make
of get
it.
the vision of they'll look for like color schemes,
all of it,
scout locations,
all of it. Asking someone to do it on the spot is honestly kind of a rude thing to do, but I'm learning to just bite the bullet and try to just be more of the director so that I can really just get past that fear of mine. Because part of it's just is me being afraid to not being good enough, and just the fact that I haven't done it. And it's just like, all right, man, now you got to take these opportunities and just take control and make a decision. At the end of the day, you're just making decisions to try to make this product better. And you starts with the good questions. All right, what did you see? What did you? And then it's okay, how do I direct this? Okay, pull the camera back here to reveal this, and then you get to do all those little aspects of it. But it's definitely a challenge for sure.
One thing that I liked in our when we were meeting last week was the talk of how different the scenes are, like then, like us growing up and now. Pre America's Best Dance Crew.
Yes.
Now World of Dance. And I think it's a both good, well, I think majority good thing, but I also hear like
it's pros and cons. Like, everything does have a con.
I hear some like old school heads, and I also have kind of this fear as well, like a repeat of the 80s might happen. Like
which aspect?
Of dance just being milked for what it's worth and then thrown to the side. That's kind of like, is this a repeat of history or not? Or I
think that will always be the case. The unfortunate thing is that whatever is going to gain attention is a moneymaker.
That's true.
That's what business is, and that's going to happen. What good it does is that it opens up to a whole new audience. Yeah. It broadens the audience.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about how
it influences a whole new market. Like our influences it for sure. What we had Break In, You Got Served, Usher, Chris Brown, Omarion. Remember, I was watching O the other day, the Omarion's O.
Oh my god,
I remember watching that video and I was just like, this is the first time I've ever seen choreography to slow music. And that blew my mind. That was a whole new influence. Right. Like we had never seen choreography like real hard, not hard, but really like into a choreography to a slow song. Like that was the first time I ever heard that musicality. I was like, tick, 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 tick. Oh my god!
The first time I saw slow choreography was 2004 Cabo Modern.
Okay, see, but that's on the dance scene.
Yeah,
that's on the dance scene.
Oh, but in terms of mainstream,
right? Yeah, so that's the difference of our influences too. Is that if you had to be on the scene around here in order to get any of those influences, otherwise your influence was pretty much MTV.
Yeah,
MTV, BET, whoever played a music video or had an artist perform, and then YouTube came. And it's a whole new set of influences now.
Yeah.
Like I think for us, I didn't know who any of the choreographers were of You Got Served until I moved down south and realized all these different people choreographed it. In your mind, you think it's one person.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, the influence is everybody on YouTube. You know, between shout outs to everybody between like Will the Beast, Jojo Gomez, Kinjas, Keone Mari. Like you have a whole variety of influences now that are influencing in a whole different way. And the beauty is that you have that now, especially what's interesting is that you had only MTV really be the big influence for dance culture or hip hop culture.
Yeah.
For decades.
It was the bottleneck for a long time.
Everything that was hip and street and youth was MTV and BET. And VH1, sure. They had a good show.
Yeah, that's some.
And then our scene took off so big on YouTube. And you had Hip Hop Internationals also happening. You see all this growth and what it's bringing, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, how do we use that? And then all of a sudden America's Best Dance Crew became a thing.
Yeah.
That became a whole new influence. Now you got people who, for the first time, got to see Asians really take over a whole platform.
Do more than just math.
or karate. Actually created a whole new stereotype now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like we really didn't have this stereotype for Asians prior to America's Best Dance Crew. Like true. Your mass media stereotype was good at math, at some point I think asexual or non-sexual, and then good at karate. Now you've got the whole scene to me was always Asian American. So now you've got a huge Asian American influence in dance on MTV. That opened the door for so many people. Actually, what I loved about it, about America's Best Dance Crew and World of Dance, is that it allowed Asian Americans, actually not even just Asian Americans, minorities to see that this is something real and that anyone can do this. Like people started going to school, people started going to UC Irvine because of Cabo Modern on America's Best Dance Crew.
Yeah, I remember
like that's huge. And then like people are changing their lives to come and do this. And that's the amazing pro of what has happened with YouTube and social media and all these shows. The con is that you get the oversaturation. You do get people trying to milk things for money. You don't really get to be in depth because you have to cover so many things and kind of tell stories more than get into the history.
Because they're trying to sell drama, quote unquote.
Right.
I remember
Exactly.
some of the things that they tried to do behind the scenes with ABDC. I remember hearing they're trying to set things up, but they're like, because every competitor there was practically
a professional,
and they knew each other before the show.
Right.
Why would I want to do that?
Right.
Why would we want to create drama?
Right. Exactly. It's a gift and a curse. Like, everything is a double-edged sword. If you do too much of any one thing at any time, it can become a bad thing. If you sleep too much, if you eat too much, like, it can have a reverse effect on you. And that's kind of what we see when it comes to art in the mainstream media, is that it's a gift and a curse. I do think that it's helped propel more than it has hindered, but there's definitely people who are going to say that. I think a lot of the old school heads, I can't personally say anymore. I feel like some have come around, but I feel like a lot of old school heads kind of used to get upset about it. My take on it now is that if you're upset, do something about it. If you're upset that the history isn't being shared properly, go grab a camera and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Either talk about it, show it, go to a place and show it. Like, these things are there. The culture is there. And if you want to authentically share the culture, you can. Like, the Red Bull BC1 now that's huge. And that's become part of the culture for dance amongst those areas and those arenas. Like, that's part of the culture. And now they're sharing it.
Yeah.
So to anybody who has a problem, like, you can always go and fix it or try to do something.
Do it your way.
To help it.
Yeah. It just reminded me, because bringing up Red Bull BC1, there was a huge, I don't know if there still is, when they announced breaking to be a part of the Olympics.
I remember hearing that this last year, and I think that's
debate about that.
Was there debate?
There was in the b-boy community. There was debate of, like, I think not debate, but mainly huge worry of having the right judges, or sharing the culture, because now you're showcasing the b-boy culture to regular people who might not know it in depth.
It might not even understand. You're absolutely right. And you know what? It's the gift and the curse. Yeah. That's the double-edged sword.
And not just that, they're wondering, like, and I feel like it won't affect it, because they were worried about how is it going to affect competitions like Battle of the Year, or where they have similar world qualifying types of systems. But I don't think it's really going to affect it, because those events are so well established. I think.
I mean, it's hard. So, I mean, the thing is, greed and corruption is there. When you have sponsors and other people involved, the money becomes the big aspect of it. I think if you look at the underlying truth of it, is that as long as the culture is being authentically expressed and shared, regardless of outcomes and those other factors, is that the root and the substance of things will still carry over. Like, we've seen football games where it's like, that was a blown call, or that was cheating, or this or that, or something. A ref did this. At the end of the day, that happened, and this team went and won. Whoever saw it's going to say, I believe that was the better team. Like, it does suck that sometimes when other things and titles get thrown in there, especially once corporations and sponsors kind of step in, there's going to be that friction. But it's the gift and the curse, and I think that we have to look at the good it does, and then whatever harm it does, we do things that help offset that. Like, you can go give conferences and talks and showcase videos and do messages and really share the words and the art on your own, and then go do whatever you need to do. It's going to be an interesting new wave of things as dance gets into the Olympics and gets more mainstream.
It'd be crazy if we see, like, the whole new term, urban choreo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like there might be some wide acceptance of that, but I also see some people in the comments disliking the term. I actually, when I went to the last Body Rock, had a really interesting moment getting to watch this panel that had, I forgot the old school guys. It was two poppers, and then you had, like, Shauna Baristo, Keone Mari, and they got into the debate of urban choreo. Ooh.
Surprisingly, the old school generation was very much like, yo, it's all just dance. Like, we don't necessarily care. It's dance, it's movement, it's choreography. Like, whatever title you put on it, at the end of the day, it's still just dance. And I agree to that. I think titles are helpful for people, but it's
distinctions, quote unquote.
Right. Like help you understand what it is. Cool. Otherwise, move on. People get too hung up on titles and too worried about this and that. Like whatever like that was luckily never the case when we had Boogiezone. It wasn't urban choreo or he's a popper. He likes popping. He's more of a popper. All right, cool. You just went and learned popping.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's more of this. Brian Friedman's this. You just went and learned it.
Brian Friedman.
Like you just went and learned it.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, if you are a dancer, strip yourself away of the titles and all those classifications and just go do what makes you happy. Whatever, as long as you're in the art form and learning and trying to progress, the label on it is really just a matter of marketing purposes. It's another gift and a curse. It's nice that we have a label to call urban choreography because you couldn't necessarily call it hip hop.
Because back in Culture Shock, we called it commercial.
Oh yeah. You had your crews. You had your popping, locking, breaking, and commercial. I was the commercial crew.
Yeah, I was in the locking crew. So
funniest thing is they classified me as a crumper back then too.
Really?
Hilarious.
You bucked back then?
No. Oh my god! I went to one buck show. I went to Battle Zone.
God!
Yeah, when Tommy the Clown was still doing it. So the year I moved down in 2005. I think the movie came out in 2004 or something like that. Right, 2006, I went to Battle Zone at the Forum, the Western Forum, I think.
It's probably.
And I mean, I was into it. I would go to they had at Homeland in Long Beach. You would have people popping, breaking, and then getting bucked. I mean, I was just trying to learn how to dance and freestyle, so I would do it. And then they classified me that. I remember when we did the Culture Shock showcase with all the Culture Shocks in San Diego. At the time, I wasn't supposed to perform, but one of the people, shout out to D-Girl. D-Girl was
D-Girl?
Yeah, she's like, I want him to be our crumper, and he's gonna have a solo center. Oh my god! There's a video. There's not video. I think there's a picture of it. You got me jumping in the air. I'm trying to get buck, but it's hilarious. I would definitely never consider myself a crumper, but there was so much love for it. I didn't care. Like you can classify me that, sure, whatever. I was just gonna go do it. Whatever I wanted to, I was just gonna go do it. And I think as dancers, once you're in it, strip yourself of that. Maybe it's good to be aware, but underlying, you are the dancer. You are the artist. You are there to create, to learn and to grow and just focus on that. Everything else is just part of the equation. You just have to learn to deal with it. Is okay. Right now I teach an open hip hop class. Now it's just like, okay, I'm just going to teach grooves. Like I don't need to have this and that. I'm just going to teach something simple and enjoy it. Like the labels are there so that people can have a better understanding of things and know what they're getting into.
Know what they're getting into, because if it just is a dance class and they're learning breaking.
Right. And sometimes they're like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. Like it's helpful, but I think once we really kind of look past the titles or not get hung up on titles, then you're moving into a better round.
I think we're out of time. So okay, all your work is gone. No one can find it. Okay.
It's like the 3 Truths.
Yeah, this is from Lewis House.
Yeah.
I fucking love that question.
I'm
biting you, Lewis.
Yeah, I just listen.
Call me a biter.
That's funny.
This is a powerful question I'm asking him.
I was just listening to his interview earlier with Brian Grazer.
Hell yeah, I love this question. Shouts out to Lewis House. Make sure you listen to him.
Yes. Just get into podcasts. Yeah. Anything that helps expand your mind. Well, it's funny because I think I've thought about that too. I've had so many thoughts going in my mind. Is that one thing for sure is that you have to have faith over fear, and I don't mean this in
just looking at your tattoo, right? Too.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mean this in a religious kind of way. In more of faith is a little bit more than confidence, I think, because I've gotten to a point where I've got low confidence, but I have faith, and I think there are very many successful people with confidence, but I think the faith is what really helps propel to withstand long term. Because you have to have faith in yourself and what you're doing in order to last long term in whatever it is that you want to do. Patience would probably be the second thing, is that it's gonna be a long term.
Yeah.
The 10,000 hours, 5 years, the overnight success is really 10 years. It all takes time. So you have to have faith in yourself. Everyone has fear, but you either use the fear to push you or really focus on the faith. Then the second thing is you have to have patience, because it's however the life is, long or short, nothing ever really comes when you want it and or how you expect it.
That's so true.
It doesn't come when you want or how you expect it. Yep. So if you have faith in what you're doing and you're proactively doing, you have patience, you'll see the reward come around. So faith over fear would be number 1. Patience is number 2. I'd probably have to say what's big for me lately is empathy and compassion, because there's a lot that you have to do on your own, and you are on your own for a lot of life, but you're not for the rest of it. Like, there's many things that you have to do and rely on yourself. You have to be independent on a lot of things for yourself. But in terms of living a wonderful life, it's really a matter of the impact that you have on the people around you and your relationships. So learning to have empathy and compassion will only strengthen the relationships. And I feel like a lot of people we're very much into a self-centered society, which is understandable, and I get it. It's a weird, ironic balance, because you have to be selfish, but you have to be selfish enough to like be better for you so that you can be selfless to others. When you're able to be selfless, you really feel more.
It's literally like how you watch Gary Vee, right? Where he says pulling from both sides.
Yes,
I love that.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's when people talk about life and balance, it's, to me, life is a whole bunch of ironies. You need to be alone so that you can learn to appreciate people. You need to go through your own personal hell so that you can really learn to be grateful for every good thing that comes. Because the truth is, nobody has to do anything for anybody.
That's real.
Really, you really don't. Yeah. And the older you get, the more you see that, and you realize that when you can't get someone to do this or that, no one has to do anything for anybody. Nope. So if you can learn to be empathetic and compassionate, you really learn to open up and create a good relationship with those people, and then they feel genuine to you and want to help. I think that's a huge thing for me, is really learning empathy and compassion.
Okay, this is a question I was actually thinking on the way here. I was actually asking myself this. What do you want people to say about you when you're gone?
Ooh, that's a good one. I really hope that I really just want to make a positive impact. So, I've shared a lot of different things with different people, whether it be being in school or in a classroom or dance, or whether I'm a student or they're a teacher or I'm a teacher. I really want people to feel good. Like, I don't necessarily care if you remember a thing or an event. I would prefer that you remember that, at least I hope, that I made you feel good, or I made you think about something. Actually, it's funny. I had a quote on my website back in like 2011, and I think it goes along the lines of to your question, was like, if I can get you to be spared from your pain, your misery, for even just a minute, or get you to believe in yourself or to think slightly differently, then I will have received more than money can ever do. Because I think once you're getting to being an artist and a teacher, and when you do want to have an influence, I want it to be a good influence. Yeah. And I want people to remember a good feeling whenever they can speak about me. It's like, oh, dude, I love that dude. He made me feel great. He did this or that. Whatever it be, whether it be even if I just gave you a high five, because I really do give a lot of high fives, and I try to be more conscious now about my interactions, because I want those people to remember the good. Like, I've made plenty of mistakes, and there's definitely things that I'm regretful for, but I hope that, and at least for those people that I've affected in that way, I hope that they can see that I've tried to do better, that I've changed behaviors, and that I am here to try to make a positive impact. Because that's really, I think, when you get into being a creator and a teacher, that's really one of the best feelings in the world, is somebody's like, "Oh, thank you so much." Like a genuine, like, I really appreciated not only what you did, but how you made me feel. It's really the best thing in the world. Like, just last week I taught a class, and it was only 2 students in class, and one of them came up, she's like, "Thank you so much. I really appreciated how you broke it down. And honestly, I just feel really good right now." And I was like, that is the greatest compliment ever. Because I could really care less about if the choreography or how far you got in the choreography. I care about how you feel, because if you feel good, you're going to want to go do more.
Yeah.
And that's what propelled me, is like when I felt good, even though I sucked at dance, like I think it was like 3 years before I would ever get a select dance group.
Oh man.
So I remember the thing that kept pushing me to get better was people made me feel good. And if I can make someone else feel good and aware of the fact that like, yo, you can do this, you can do whatever it is that you want. It just takes patience, persistence, and a whole lot of faith in what you're doing. And that's, at least for me, my legacy, I hope that is everyone just remembers that Shaboobs put a smile on my face. Like, I'm not even Anthony to the world. That's the beauty of also being called Shaboobs, is that usually when it's such a ridiculous nickname, people just shout it. Yeah. And I've gotten to a point in my head, and it's like, nobody's ever mad at boobies. Can't hate boobies. When you say it, hey, boobies! It was a good feeling. So I always want to leave people with feeling good and understanding that, like, you can do whatever it is that you want. It's simple, not easy. That's a bonus. A lot of these things, a lot of life is simple. That doesn't make it easy. The root of the problem, the answer to the question, it's always a simple thing. It doesn't make it easy. Sometimes it's about open communication. Sometimes it's about honesty and transparency.
That's not easy.
It's not easy. They're simple. It's a simple idea, but it's not easy. And that's really what most of life is. It's like, it's simple. We complicate it by being anxious and worried and throwing all of our things on top of it. And they have to do this and the rules. A lot of it's simple. And when you get down to the simplicity of it, is okay. I see that. The game is simple. The Instagram game, it's simple. I see what it is, and then you just go and you do it. It doesn't make it easy, but it's there. And I feel like if I can make you realize that for yourself, then I'm happy. Like I've had that since I was younger, for sure, that I've wanted to leave a positive impact, and I want people to feel good. Actually, I saw it this morning at a Starbucks. It was a Maya Angelou quote. And it was like, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And the older I get, the more true I realize that is, because there's so many times that I may have forgot the action or what somebody said, but I will sure as hell remember the feeling, good or bad. And we all know that the bad feelings for sure sit right on top. But if you understand that, it's like, if the feeling is what we remember, then we focus on trying to make others feel good as well as you feel good yourself, then it works out. But a lot of us get so weighed down and so into our heads and so worried and so anxious that we're not present in the moment, and that we're not authentically sharing and being genuine with whoever we're interacting with. And the irony is that it takes... You'll see how hollow a lot of those friendships and relationships really are, because you never went deeper. Like the moment you really like get deeper with somebody, like then you have that real connection. That's true. And then people will remember that. People will remember that conversation you had at 3 a.m. at a Denny's, just because it felt good. It's like, bro, I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember I went home and I just wanted to do something. Inspiring. Yeah. And that's really what I want. I want to push people to feel inspired, and actually more than just inspired, motivated. Like that is the goal. I had another quote. Damn, I remember myself being younger, and I was very ambitious. I had a quote, and I started something when I was doing an interview series called Real Talk.
Oh, I remember that.
And I think I did Kyle Hanagami, April Rodriguez, and Nappy Tabs, and the whole objective was, I want to have conversations that are either insightful, inspiring, or motivating. That was the one of those three. If all three, great. But for sure, one of those three had to be the thing. And I feel like if you're being insightful, inspiring, and motivating, is that it's like energy. Other people will attract to it, and they'll gravitate, and they take that, and it helps push them. Yeah. There's so many times that somebody's been inspired or motivated by maybe someone they didn't even meet, just because the feeling that they got from something. And if I can produce that for other people, then I'm set. That's absolutely one of my... At this point, has become a conscious goal, hopefully, to leave a legacy of just making people feel good.
All right. Where can people find you and stalk you?
I'm pretty much Shaboobs everywhere. SHABOOBS. At Shaboobs on Twitter, at Shaboobs on Instagram. If you type in Shaboobs on YouTube or Google, you're bound to find me. For sure, Instagram is pretty much probably the only place that I'm on regularly.
All right. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video podcast. Make sure you give Shaboobs a follow. Everything he just mentioned is going to be in the links in the description. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.